So what I did for you guys is I counted every single word that was said in the first episode of The Mandalorian. And I found out some really interesting concepts about The Mandalorian that show just how powerful it is. When you give the audience less, you can actually give them more.
I can get you more credits.
For those of you who haven't watched The Mandalorian, the very first episode starts with us immediately meeting the Mandalorian as he is on a bounty hunt. This bounty hunt isn't a huge chase through some mountains and space fights and lightsabers. There's barely any lightsabers in this series. Great choice.
It's not fair.
Instead, it is a subtle homage. It's a subtle introduction to a character, letting us know exactly who he is and what he does. It's not until 3 minutes and 15 seconds into the first episode, this is almost 10% of the way into the first episode, he actually utters his first words for the film.
I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold.
Now, this is actually really unusual. Normally, writers will be trying to get the character to spew forth as much information as physically possible, so they can actually get out as much character before we get bored of this situation, but instead they use action. And I'm going to keep coming back to this because that is really what they've replaced the dialogue with. Instead, they have made the character a character of action, a character of doing, and I think that's incredibly important. Not only that, it also raises the mystery around the character. If we don't know what they're thinking or feeling, and we don't know what their plan is, we want to know. Overall, the amount of words in the entirety of the first episode of The Mandalorian Season 1 is 1,597 spoken words.
This is the way.
Now, some of you might be thinking, that's quite a lot of words for a 40-minute episode of TV. It's not. It's less than half the average. The average word count for a TV episode of 40 minutes in length is actually 4,000 words. That equates to roughly 100 words per minute. Now, this pales in comparison to the highest word count per minute in television history, which is Dawson's Creek, with 213 words per minute, which makes it roughly 8,000 words for a 40-minute episode, which is a hell of a lot of words. I mean, I'm really kind of feeling sorry for the writer, actually. So how many of the 1,597 words in the episode of Mandalorian is spoken by the Mandalorian himself? He speaks a total of 497 words. That's 1/3 of the dialogue in the first episode. Well, at first I thought to myself, well, that doesn't really make him very quiet. He's not... he's obviously talking relatively often, and given that he travels to multiple planets and he meets many characters, the other characters actually don't have too much to say. So what can we digress, what can we get from that 497 words? Well, in total, in the first episode, he actually speaks a total of 68 lines across the entire episode. What that means is it's actually only 6.7 words on average per line that he speaks throughout the entire episode.
What else did he say?
You try and come up with complete sentences in 6 words. It's pretty tricky.
Thank you.
They've actually shown you who the character is by the way in which the character chooses to speak. What this means is the Mandalorian himself has been given very short lines throughout the entire episode. And in fact, this is reflected across the rest of the season. Although he does say a little bit more in later episodes, I think the first episode really does grab your attention and really does sell what the Mandalorian is all about. What does having short sentences say about the Mandalorian? Well, it says that he's not a man of many words, and when he does speak, he speaks very directly very plainly and gets to the point as quickly as possible.
You're kidding me, right?
Get out.
Something else that's really interesting in the use of dialogue throughout the film is how many questions go unanswered. Many times throughout both seasons of The Mandalorian, he's asked questions, and I can tell you, he basically answers none of them.
You think there's really something to worry about?
But these questions actually have a really nice effect on the audience. What it does is it actually opens us up to the idea that there is lore, there is history, there is a culture and a system and a texture to The Mandalorian and the universe that they live within.
Is that a bounty puck?
And that comes back to the very core of The Mandalorian and what I believe is one of the most successful elements of The Mandalorian, and that is the actions that The Mandalorian has. I feel like the writers wrote all the dialogue out, and then what they did is they tried to replace as much of that dialogue with action as many times as they possibly could. Now, if you take a look at the beginning of the first Mandalorian episode, you'll notice that the Mandalorian asks for a taxi at this moment.
I need passage to the yards.
Instead of the Mandalorian responding to this taxi stand manager, he just flicks a coin across to him. This action says everything. It says, hey, I don't want you to ask questions, just do as I say. And it also is an understanding. The characters in the world are letting you know through this action that money speaks. And that is a really important element in The Mandalorian, is that currency and money seems to open doors. And here's another time that the Mandalorian did something instead of responding verbally.
Did you catch them all?
Quite apart from being just a cooler way of doing it, the Mandalorian could have just said yes. It would have been shorter in screen time, and it would have efficiently responded to the man's question. But instead, him throwing the tags on the table showed that he not only caught many more bounties than the one that we had witnessed,
Save the theatrics.
but he again is a man of actions and not words. He shows what he has done. He doesn't tell you what he has done.
I'm ending all of this. The tree, the text, the Jedi. I'm gonna burn it down.
So at just 10 words per minute, the Mandalorian character lets us know so much about the universe, his background, his own character and his moral code, more through his actions than anything else. We get so much from the story because, again, the directors and the writers have really taken the time to tell us the story through the camera, through the blocking and through the music.
Do you want the chit or not?
If you want to know more about composing in film and TV, I've done a previous episode which goes through that in detail. Especially it looks at how certain directors choose their music before they've even shot a frame of film. I believe, and I think this has been well documented in film, that when you create a mystery surrounding a character or event, we as human beings are just so blasted nosy. We just want to know what's going on. We want to know the answers.
Razor Crest, am I right? How much are they paying you? Is it true that you guys never take off your helmets?
So when you create a character who just holds the information, only gives you the bits of information that you need at that exact moment, it really does make a massive difference in just how invested we become in finding out more about that character.
Don't you agree?
Next time you are doing your own film, writing your script, you get to the end of your script. Now go through that script and see how many lines, how many words, how many things you can actually delete from your script and replace with actions instead of words. Show, don't tell. This is such a powerful concept, and done well can really invigorate and make your stories magical. If you enjoyed today's episode, check out the links below for more information on how to up your game on your next film.